besties, welcome to my end of year book tag. I am so excited to be filming this. I believe Destiny Sidwell, who is one of my favorite booktubers, actually created this tag. So I'll have the questions down below and I'll also have a link to her video as well. I'm pretty sure you guys have probably already watched hers or follow her. She's like the queen of booktube, and I thought this would be a great way to kind of recap some of the books that I've read in 2023. Who doesn't love a good book tag? With that all being said, let's hop right into the video. All right, so the first question is most disappointing read of the year. Now we're going on a possible controversial start because I know this book is very loved on Book Talk, and this was really popular last summer, and that was Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. I feel like this is the most overhyped book and the book that disappointed me the most. So going into this, I had such high expectations because of how much everyone loved it. I didn't see a single negative review until I posted my review of it. So this is a childhood friends to lovers and second chance romance, and it's set in this cute little lake house in Canada, and it's like major summer vibes, and I was like, I am going to eat this book up. And I actually really did enjoy the writing of the story, but first maybe like 60-70% of the book was actually pretty good, but then the ending, the last chunk of this book, really let me down. I did not like how the story ended up going, even though I sort of also guessed the plot twist as well. I didn't enjoy the main female character. I thought the main male character, Sam, deserved so much better. I don't know, I was just really disappointed by this book. I think also me having such high expectations going in after seeing so many good reviews about it had a big contribution as to why this was the most disappointing read of the year. But definitely Every Summer After. And then I would also say another disappointing read of the year was the sequel of Six Crimson Cranes, which was The Dragon's Promise by Elizabeth Lim. If you guys watch my favorite books of 2022 video that I posted last year, Six Crimson Cranes is actually in my top 10, and I was so excited for the sequel, but I feel like the sequel really fell flat for me. I couldn't really get into the story. I didn't really like the first half, and the second half, by the time I got to it, I was like, I just really don't care. I honestly personally think that the book would have been so much better just as a standalone. I really didn't think that we needed this book, as beautiful as this cover is. So yeah, this was unfortunately a very disappointing read, especially after how much I loved Six Crimson Cranes. Next question is, what is an underdog book that you read this year? Which is kind of like, what is the most underrated book that I read this year? For this, I thought I would go with Shipped by Angie Hockman, because I haven't heard too many people talk about this book, but I really enjoyed it. I think it's pretty underrated, to be honest. I think it's a great summer read to get in the summer mood. It's also mainly set in a cruise ship, which was such a fun setting, which I haven't really seen too many books about. It's workplace, rivals, romance. The two characters are actually competing for a promotion, and they're going to the Galapagos Islands, and I just really enjoyed the story. It was just such a fun, silly, goofy time, and it was so good. It was actually the first book I read in 2023 as well, and it was a 4-star read for me. If you haven't already read this book, highly recommend. It is such a fun read. And then the opposite of this question, a book that was overhyped. I mean, I kind of answered this before, but Every Summer After by Carly Fortune, I think is probably the most overhyped book that I did read, because clearly I did not understand the hype. Even though the writing was good, I just did not like the storyline. I did not like how the story went. Didn't really care for the characters except for Sam, which I think deserves so much better. And then I would also say The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. If you know me, you know that I have a little bit of beef with this book because I really did not enjoy it. This is one of the OG Book Talk books. I finally got around to reading it, and I understand why I put it off, because this was a 2-star read for me. I think it is so overhyped. I could not care for these characters. I hated the main female character. This was too much of a slow burn, even though I love a good slow burn. The chapters are way too long, and it took 200 pages for these characters to even make it to Spain. And when it got to Spain, it didn't get any better. I was just emotionally checked out when I was reading this book because I just could not care. Did not like this one, so this is also very overhyped in my opinion. Favorite book couple of the year? Well, this comes at no surprise, but I would say Nate and Stacy from Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. These two characters are probably the healthiest book couple that I've read about. These two characters know how to communicate. There's no miscommunication between them. There is so much mutual respect for each other and understanding of each other, which I just really, really loved. They complemented each other so well, and I just love this book. They help each other grow and they just want the best for each other, and like they are just such a healthy couple and I love them together. So obviously it's going to be Nate and Stacy. They're my #1 favorite book couple of the year. Also an honorary mention for Bridget and Reese from Twisted Games. I just love these two. Twisted Games is my favorite book in the Twisted series, and Bridget and Reese are my favorite couple. It's bodyguard, princess romance, it's forbidden, and Reese is such a private person, and obviously Bridget is a princess, so Reese essentially gives up his entire privacy, which is such a big thing, so he could have a future with Bridget. And just like everything that they had gone through to become a couple is probably another reason why I just love them so much and why they are probably my second favorite book couple of the year. I just love Bridget and Reese. Okay, I kind of want to mention one last couple, and just because Hannah and Garrett from The Deal. I know, I feel like that's such a basic answer because everyone loves these two, but for good reason, because they make such a good couple. I love Hannah and Garrett as individual characters, but I also really love them together, so I just had to mention them. And I can totally see Hannah and Garrett from The Deal going on a double date with Nate and Stacy from Icebreaker, even though they like two different like books from different authors. But I can totally see these two couples having double dates all the time and being the best double dating couple ever. Next question is favorite main character of the year. I think for this one I would probably go with Zara from The Fine Print by Lauren Asher, which is the first book in the Dreamland Billionaire series, which is a grumpy sunshine workplace boss employee romance. Zara from The Fine Print is one of my favorite main characters of the year because I could really connect to her, and I feel like she was the perfect amount of sunshine. She wasn't sunshine in the cringy cheesy way. She was just like the best balance of sunshine in a grumpy sunshine romance. She's also a POC and she's curvy, and I just love that representation in this book, and she is just so wholesome and sweet, and I just absolutely adored her character. Love her so much. Like I aspire to be like Zara. Of course I had to mention my girl Tara from X's and O's. We all know how I feel about this book, one of my favorite books of the year, and Tara was such a relatable character for me. She is book obsessed, she's a book influencer, she's a hopeless romantic, she's super clumsy, she doesn't know how to cook. She was just relatable in every way. She was so funny, and I just love this book in general. I tabbed the heck out of this book. And I've got to mention The Deal again because I love both Hannah and Garrett. Hannah was just such a kind, sweet, funny, sassy character, and Garrett was just golden retriever vibes. He is my favorite book boyfriend, not just for this year but probably of all time. He is next level. We love him. We stan. A book that surprised you. Okay, well, for that one I would say Normal People by Sally Rooney, because going into this book I honestly expected not to like it because I'm not really into literary fiction, and also the way that Sally Rooney writes isn't usually my cup of tea. There's no quotation marks or anything, and it's a different type of writing to my typical books that you normally read, and I was thinking that I would not understand the story or get it. I wouldn't be part of the Sally Rooney club, but I decided to give this book a go in January, and it completely surprised me, and it ended up becoming a 4-star read for me. This is very character focused. There's literally no plot like at all, and at first it was a little hard for me to follow along, especially with like the writing being so different to typical book. Once I actually started understanding what the story is about, and even though these characters are so mundane, I think that's why I appreciated it so much. Like it was so much easier to relate, and these characters are so flawed, and I ended up really appreciating the story, and it really surprised me. I honestly did not think I was gonna like this book, and ended up actually being one of my favorites, which is so crazy to me. A new favorite author that you discovered in 2023. For that one, I've got to say Lynn Painter, and look how beautiful these stack of books are next to each other. We love. I cannot believe I had not read a Lynn Painter book prior to this year, because she is definitely one of my favorite romance authors, specifically YA romances. I read 3 of her books, which were Better Than the Movies, The Do-Over, and Mr. Wrong Number. I read all 3 of these this year, and I really enjoyed all of them. The way that she writes is is the perfect amount of cheesy, and it's just so sweet and fluffy and wholesome and cute. She just writes such good stories. Like, they are perfect if you're in a reading slump and you just want to feel cozy and like warm and all cuddly inside. That's like the best way that I can describe her books. I just love her writing, and all the main characters in her books are Swifties. We love that. I think like out of all 3 books though, my favorite is definitely Better Than the Movies, because this book was just so sweet. And there's a sequel coming out as well, and I can't wait for it because I think it's gonna be so fun. And I would also mention Lucy Score. I discovered her this year as well, and I really like her books. I have fully read Things We Never Got Over and Maggie Moves On, and I'm actually currently reading Things We Hide From the Light, which I'm hoping to finish in December, but let's see how it goes. I feel like Lucy Score writes really good small town romances, and small town is one of my favorite tropes in books, and the small towns that she creates with the cutest little side characters are everything to me, and I really like her storytelling. She writes really good Grumpy Sunshine romances, which are my favorite. Grumpy Sunshine, small town trope, the 2 of them together is everything to me. And of course I have naturally fallen in love with Lucy Score's writing, and now I want to read all of her books because I enjoyed both of these, and I'm also really enjoying Things We Hide From the Light, which is what I'm currently reading. So Lucy Score and Lynn Painter are my 2 favorite new authors that I discovered in 2023. Happiest read of the year. For me, I interpreted this question of how the book specifically made me feel. I said Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter for this question because, like I mentioned before, this book had me smiling and giggling and all giddy with excitement reading this book, and I loved these characters and I loved how cheesy and rom-com-y this book felt. It was just such a fun time, so that's why I'd go with Better Than the Movies. I would also say X's and O's by Amy Lee, kind of for similar reasons, because this book had me laughing out loud and smiling the entire time. I loved these characters and I just didn't want this story to end. So X's and O's and Better Than the Movies made me happy this year. Most frustrating book that you read in 2023. I would probably say To Love Jason Thorne by Ella Mays. The reason why this book frustrated me was because there were 2 scenes specifically where there was like no consent whatsoever. That is an absolute no for me in real life and in fiction too. This book frustrated me because of the no consent, but it also frustrated me because these characters were insufferable and I just did not enjoy this story. It was a frustrating read for me, so I'd probably say To Love Jason Thorne. Best adaptation of the year. I can't actually answer this one because I haven't actually watched any adaptations. I do really want to watch the new Hunger Games movie, but I haven't actually read the book yet. That's why I'm holding off on it. So unfortunately I don't really have an answer for this one. Longest book that you read this year. I went through my Goodreads and on my bookshelf, and apparently the longest book that I read this year was Twisted Lies by Anna Huang. This one was 559 pages, so this was the longest one that I've read. This is the 4th and final book in the Twisted series, and we're following Stella and Christian, and their trope is fake dating. It's a billionaire romance, and our main female character is actually a fashion social media influencer and aspiring fashion designer, and that was such a fun book. This book was so good. I really enjoyed it. Honestly, for it being almost 600 pages, it did not feel like I was reading 559 pages. It felt so much shorter because it was just such a good book. And then the shortest book that you read this year. The shortest book that I read this year was a book called Protective by Sin Sable. It was a spicy little summer romance read. I kind of, I guess, listen to it as an audiobook. Favorite covers of the year. My absolute favorite covers of the year would be The Summer of Broken Rules by K.L. Walther, because look at the colors, look at just how this is presented. It is so beautiful. I loved it. I also really liked the book itself. And then of course Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. This book cover is just so stunning, and also every single item in this cover represents what this book is about as well. So I feel like the book cover is so perfect. The book cover is also such cozy vibes, and I honestly think this is maybe my favorite book cover of the year. And also all of the Twisted Steamy Lit edition covers are also so pretty. At the moment I only have just Twisted Lies to show, but I also have the other book covers in the series as well. They're my favorite, but I think if I had to pick a favorite, it's a toss-up between the Love and Other Words cover and the steamy lit editions of the Twisted series. A book that you haven't stopped thinking about. I would probably say Twisted Games, honestly, by Anna Huang. I read this one back in January and it's now December and I still think about this on a regular basis. For obvious reasons, if you've read this book, you'd probably understand. Like, there were so many scenes in this book just had me blushing, and like that I think about like very regularly, especially the throne scene. If you know, you know. So yes, this book does kind of live rent-free in my brain. Also, X's and O's lives rent-free in my brain. Sometimes I literally go back and read quotes and stuff that I've underlined and highlighted because this book just made me feel a lot of things and I just have really good memories associated with this book. And the next question is cringiest book you've read this year. Comes at no surprise, and this is so easy, but To Love Jason Thorne by Ella Mays, definitely the cringiest book that I read. Like I said, no consent. Characters were insufferable. The main female character's nickname that the guy gives her is Little One, and the amount of times that he says that gives me the absolute ick. This entire book gives me the ick, and it is so cringy. I wish I could just erase it from my brain because I really did not like this book. An unpopular book that you love. I'm not sure. I went through my Goodreads to see, and I feel like my ratings are usually on par with everything. Oh, actually, I don't know if this is unpopular, but I do know this author is kind of unpopular at the moment. So I would say It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. I feel like you either love or you hate this sequel. And for me, I actually really liked it because I loved It Ends With Us when I first read it. And again, when I reread it for the second time this year, I just liked that this book kind of gave us a little bit of closure. I mean, did this book really need to get written? Probably not, like definitely not. But I still really appreciated seeing the ending that we got for Lily and Atlas. It's rated 3.89 stars, which is not a low rating. Like, that's a pretty decent average rating. But I feel like unpopular book, I don't know if this is unpopular, but I know this author is unpopular, so I'm gonna go with that. So I'll say It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover because I actually did like this book. What was the highest and lowest rated books that you read this year on Goodreads, and do you agree? I love this question. I am going to go into my Goodreads right now and I'm going to filter through average ratings. So the lowest rated book that I read this year was Last Chance Books by Kelsey Rodkey. This was a 3.26 average rating. I would say I agree with this rating because I rated this one 3 stars when I read it, and it's a book that I will never reread or probably really recommend because it was so boring and it was not that good. And then the highest rated book, let me see what the highest rated was. Okay, the highest rated that I read this year was I'm Glad My Mum Died by Jeanette McCurdy, which had a 4.48 star average rating. I don't rate memoirs, so I can't say if I agree or disagree because I don't ever rate memoirs because I just don't think that's really right because it's someone's life story. So I'm just gonna pick another book, the next book that's the highest rated. Oh, well, I definitely agree with that. And that is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. This one has a 4.29 average star rating. I would agree with this. I think I rated this one either 4 or 4.5. Also, a side note, I wish that Goodreads actually let us do half-star ratings because that would make life so much easier. The next question is a book with the most unique concept. I don't have the physical book because I borrowed this from the library, but Before the Coffee Gets Cold. This is cool because it's a collection of 4 short stories and it's all set at this cafe where when you sit down at this table with your coffee, like you get transported back in time. I thought the time travel cafe aspect was just like such a cool, unique concept that I haven't really read about. It's like magical realism and it was very cozy vibes. While I was looking at this question, I also think I would probably say You Reach Sam by Dustin Thau. This book did have a really interesting, unique concept, but I actually was kind of disappointing because I think the concept was great, but the execution could have been way better. Essentially with this book, we follow Julie and Sam. Sam passes away and Julie is grieving, and then she actually picks up the phone to call Sam to kind of listen to his voicemail, and then Sam actually picks up the phone. He's dead though, so it's kind of like him in the afterlife and he's talking to her. I don't know how to really explain it, but I don't know. I thought that concept was really unique, so I'd probably say You Reach Sam and Before the Coffee Gets Cold. A book that you've read that you would want to reread. Definitely quite a few books in here. First one I'd probably say is The Deal by Elle Kennedy because the feelings that I got when reading this book was just amazing. I also love a good ice hockey romance. I loved Hannah and Garrett as a couple, loved this world, and I annotated this as well, so I think I would love to go back, even if I don't reread it, like rereading my annotations and stuff. Also would love to go back and reread X's and O's, especially because of how much I fell in love with this book when I first read it, and I really want to reread it again to see if I feel those same feelings again, and I feel like I probably would because of how much I was obsessing over this book. I'd probably say those two. I mean, there are definitely quite a few other ones that I would probably want to reread that were 5-star reads and stuff for me, but I'd probably say those two are like the main ones that I would want to reread again. Reading goal, reflection, and 2024 reading goal. Well, I can confirm that my reading goal on Goodreads for 2023 was to read 100 books. When I set this goal at the start of the year, I was like, oh, I think I can do it because I read over 100 books last year. Well, I definitely did not account for a lot of things happening in 2023, but at this current moment, I have read 48 out of 100 books. That's 48% of my reading goal. I'm honestly not mad about that. I have my reasons as to why. There were quite a few reading slumps through the year as well. A lot of busy moments. I was traveling, very busy with work. There was just a lot of things going on this year. But I honestly think I could probably make it to 50 because as I'm filming this, it is the 10th of December. So I think we can probably reach 50 books by the end of the year, but let's see how it goes. As for 2024 reading goal, if I'm gonna put a number for it, I'd probably say 50 books. I'm going to half that amount because I think 50 is a good challenge, but it also is going to be helping me with the mindset of quality over quantity, because at the end of the day, it is about the books that you read that you love. There's no point reading books that you don't enjoy, that you end up rating like 3 stars or below. Like, I want to read more books that are 4 stars or above, and I think having a goal of 50 is good because it's a challenge, but it's also something that I think would be doable because obviously I've so far read 48 books this year. I'm going to assume that next year is going to be just as busy, so probably say 50 books in 2024 is the goal. And our last question is, after 2023 reading, what are you prioritizing in 2024 reading wise? Sort of answered this question as well, but I'm going to be prioritizing quality over quantity when it comes to books, and also limiting my book spending. I have enough of a physical TBR behind me right now that I need to get through before I go and add more books to this pile, even though I literally like recently ordered a new book, but it's fine. So probably like sticking to a proper book buying ban and not unnecessarily spending money on books, and getting through my physical TBR is really, really important to me, and quality over quantity when it comes to books for sure are my main goals. And also getting through some of the series that I'm currently in the middle of, which I'm actually wanting to maybe do a video talking about every book series that I'm currently in the middle of. I think that would be a really fun video to do and be interesting to see as well. So that is kind of my reading plans or bookish plans for 2024, but fingers crossed, let's see how it goes. Anyways guys, that concludes the end of view book tag. Like I said, I'm gonna have Destiny's video linked down below along with the questions in here. Please feel free to answer the questions down below, or you can do this video as well. I would love to see. Give this video a huge thumbs up if you did enjoy watching, and subscribe to my channel down below. I post new videos every single week, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!